And as we go through each article, we'll have discussion, comment, questions, thoughts, ideas, and then we'll move on to the next article when we're done, if that sounds good. Breaking it down that way seems to be the best way to get through it all, unless anybody has a different thought.
Well, so if we do it that way, when we vote, will we vote on each chapter or article?
No, we'll be voting on the entire
On the entire
document
package?
and
Yeah.
all of it as it's contained.
Okay,
At the meeting.
at the meeting, right.
And so, any changes that you guys direct us to make or that we want to talk about, we'll do today. We can continue that discussion one-on-one. Obviously, you can't talk to me as a group or to Jake as a group. And then there's still one section that isn't revised yet, which is really just to kind of short up, and that's the rules of measurement. Which, they're in here, but they need some revision. There we go.
Yep. Okay, so Article 1. Some of this is just cleanup of language, but the first kind of big change is just recognizing the official name of the ordinance itself is the Syracuse zoning ordinance. And it still recognizes ReZone as the process to come up with the new ordinance, but it formalizes the use of the language legally, especially when we're issuing notices of violation from the ordinance. So that was the main driver behind it, but also there was a lot of just branding questions and what words should we be using or not using, but officially the code will be known as the Syracuse zoning ordinance, which was the result of the ReZone Syracuse process. Next, we clarified that there can be no development without compliance with all applicable laws. Quick reasoning behind that is basically we had people that wanted to develop or seek approvals for certain things and they weren't meeting, they were violating state law or other city laws. You know, the CFC is an example. We've had people that come and want to get a special use permit for a store in a mixed use building, but they don't have a CFC or they haven't had one, or they're in trouble with, you know, the state for something cannabis related maybe. It basically just clarifies and codifies that you need to be following all local, state, federal laws in order to seek approvals for development across the board.
Not just ours, but whatever set of rules bear upon your operation, you need to be in compliance.
One good example is auto shops have to have a license from the DMV, and they have to buy a separate placard for it, and they often don't. So you have to have that. Otherwise, you're not compliant.
Next up is just nonconformities. Overall, there are a number of updates there. First up is clarifying that variances are not an available path to satisfy the limitations of nonconformities. So basically, you can't use a variance in lieu of meeting, you know, the code in certain areas. And Mayra can speak to the legal.
Nate, just to follow along, so it's up on the board.
Oh, just scrolling through, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
scroll because Jennifer can't see it. Our one and only
Sure.
the fan club.
Our honored guests.
So for anybody following along, we're in 1.5 right now, which is nonconformities. And if I can find it on here. I'll try to do the same on here, so should be page.
I can follow that page.
Okay. Well, anyway, the first the item I was just getting at was that variances are not available in lieu of satisfying limitations on nonconformities. Do you have anything to add from a legal
It's
basis?
just, the case law holds that, and the treatises hold that for the Board of Zoning Appeals to use their variance authority to change the limitations on a non-conforming use is tantamount to passing legislation, and they don't have authority to do that.
Right.
So can I ask a question about that? So if I have a non-conforming building at the moment, are we saying we want it, it has to conform before I come and change it?
You can't use, you can't use a variance to make it conform. So the
So
whole.
I can do anything within the code up to a required variance?
Well,
something that
remember,
might
this is about
require-
nonconformity,
It's
so
a
we're
zoning
talking
non-
about somebody trying to get a variance for a
Let's say you have a building that, we have a case pending right now where the lot is non-conforming. And it's 38 feet wide instead of 40. And in 1988, they got a variance to continue a two-family use there. The minimum lot width is 40 for a single family, not even for a two-family. But at the time, they claimed that it had been a two-family forever, that it had been built that way. No documentation was submitted, but that was the old ways. So they got a variance to continue to maintain the two-family use type. So fast forward to today, there's a new owner, and that new owner wants to get a variance to expand it to 8 units. And you can't use a variance to increase the level of nonconformity, even though technically that variance makes it not nonconforming anymore. The lot is still only 38 feet wide.
The underlying
So they've got a
nonconformity.
density issue. The underlying nonconformity can't be cured by a variance, because what the law wants is, the rules about nonconformities are very draconian, and the reason for that is that the law wants them to go away. They're not gelling with the theme of your code.
Continue.
So eventually, people either just keep them like they are, get tired of them and abandon them, tear the house down, build something that's the right size, right?
Okay, thanks.
And we had a lot of requests for variances to fix nonconformity, so we wanted to codify that.
Okay.
Updates in this section also clarify the applicability to certain land use types. Also clarifies burden of proof. It clarifies change of use language to state that a change must be to the same use category. Again, this is all under nonconformities, just so we're clear.
Yep.
Clarifications to damage and destroyed uses and structures, and when those can be rebuilt as is and when they can't. Just some fixes to some omitted language, allowing changes to non-conforming signs if there's no physical alterations, and removes language regarding legal non-conformities. And the last article in Article 1 is 1.6. It revises the enforcement section to add procedures for enforcement, which were never listed before. So I'll pause there. That's Article 1. Any questions, comments?
The enforcement procedures that were not available before, these are based upon what other best practices we identified in other communities, or did we delve elsewhere into something the city had to find something that was consistent with what we're proposing now?
So the zoning code just didn't, it didn't have enough language on how that, what that procedure is. So here, code enforcement officers and do the actual enforcement for the actual noticing of violations and the issuing of violations, but this ordinance is for the zoning ordinance, where the other servicing and procedural things and notices of violations from our property conservation code is really for codes and rules from that ordinance, not this one.
We didn't do a lot of
Yeah.
updates here. It's just clarifying, kind of hammering down that Ryan Shield, the code enforcement director, has certain authorities to issue violation notices for violations of this code, and a little bit of procedure, but a lot of that's outlined in state law and in the property maintenance code, and it's kind of shadowed here, but we wanted to make sure kind of that we don't get challenged on his authority to cite for a zoning violation, so we just kind of short it up a little bit.
So that gets us into Article 2, which is zone districts and general provisions, which is 2.1. Some language clarification there that cleans up establishing zone districts and base zone districts and exceptions to dimensional standards.
I just want to point out that we're probably going to have to hire someone to help us do the formatting, because we did have someone who has, just because it's a mess, you'll see, we did have someone, Christian, who was actually really well-versed in working with this, and he said it was so messed up, he couldn't even fix it.
Thank you.
So,
Glad to hear that. It's not just
the
me.
numbering got really weird. It skips around and says it's Article 2, but Section 1.2, and it'll all be fixed before adoption, but just don't let it distract you. And also, there's constant references to, like, Section 0. It automatically populates it. Even if we put in the number, it populates it back to 0 next to it. So we have to figure out what's wrong with the formatting to fix that. So you're going to see those kind of errors in here, but we couldn't get them done before today because we actually don't.
And this was just
Another round of amendments, and it's just